Alright, so this is my Infernoid deck, of course. That Infernoid reasoning is what I call it. But basically, it's just an Infernoid deck, right? Because a lot of people would use reasoning with Infernoids just because they have the condition that it cannot be normal on a set. So they'll just end up going to the graveyard until you actually hit something that can. I want the ability to recycle my remove from play Infernoid, so I have Necroface. I'm only using one, even though I could use two. I'm using one. It's because I'm using reasoning. The idea is I'm trying to dump like what, 60-70% of my deck to the graveyard deliberately. So I have a 50-50 chance of dumping almost half my deck or so to my graveyard because I have Blastoise, not Blastoise, Blaster. What am I saying? Blaster and Necroface. Technically, I could try to take out Blaster and put something else, like another spell, a spell card or a trap card or something, whatever I feel like doing. So that way, the only monster that can be summoned by reasoning would be Necroface itself. And then, of course, I have YUGIOH, so I can recycle the Necroface. So that way, when I draw it, summon it, put all these monsters that I play back into the deck. You get the idea. But Blaster is useful because they are a fire attribute. I could discard, so I could pop, back roll, pop a monster or whatever I want. Then I could banish the Infernoids to summon him. So that gives me a nice little 2800 beater. Plus, by banishing them, of course, I can summon Necroface, put them all back in the deck, so I could reuse them. Especially if I play a reasoning, send them back to the grave, so I can, you know, recycle. That's the main aspect you're trying to incorporate into Infernoids, is the ability to reuse them, since they don't have the conditions like the Dragon Rulers have, where you banish them, you get to plus, right? You get to get another card to replace the cards you banish. If they did, that would be awesome and that add more synergy, but they don't have that, so you gotta supplement, right? So anyway, of course, I got their boss monster, Infernoid, Nihilimoth, whatever, right? Banish 3 Infernoid monsters from your hand and or graveyard, while the combined levels and ranks of all effect monsters you control, if any, are 8 or less. And it cannot be special summoned by other ways. But of course, there is a spell card, a Bolt from out of the blue, which can summon them regardless of the summoning condition. So you could bypass that part, right? By being able to use this card to summon them anyway. And when this card is special summoned, you can destroy all other monsters on the field. That's a choice. You get to choose to do it or not. You don't have to. In case you're afraid of a Starlight Roll, you don't have to activate it. But if you do, that'll clear the field of monsters, right? So then you just gotta worry about your opponent's back row. And then once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell, trap, or spell trap effect is activated, you contribute one monster to negate the activation. If you do, banish it. What I mean by banish it, I mean the card that you negated. Banish that. So that's pretty good, you know, being able to banish something like a bombness or something, whatever, right? It's a good effect. It's kind of like Stardust, but it doesn't do monster effects, which sucks, but okay. We'll work with what we can. It deals with spells and traps, which is good enough, you know, when you have to deal with stuff like bombs or stuff. Even Trench wouldn't be, I just realized I said Starlight Roll, but it wouldn't matter because you could chain this effect, tribute himself, and then get the Starlight Road and still get the ability to destroy all monsters in the field. So you kind of win on that, right? Yeah, because it's supposed to be 2 effect, so you can chain it. Just like you could chain it to Bombness, you could chain it to Mirror Force, so forth and so forth. Dark Hole, all the good stuff. Just something even in general, like tribute him so you can stop your opponent's soul charge. Call haunted plays, whatever. Power Bond, Gemini Fusion, Shadow Fusion, you know, all that stuff. So it's good in general. It can negate spells and traps, so that's awesome. And it's a 3000 beater, so that's always good. Now, its abilities are once per turn while face up. Its main ability, which is the once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell or trap card is activated, blah blah blah, you can trigger a monster. That's a once per turn while its face up effect. So if you manage to summon it use his effect to negate a spell trap, right, and banish it. He'll obviously be in the graveyard. You can banish 3 more Infernoids to bring him back, and because you brought him back, from the graveyard, that resets that part of the effect, which is now once per turn you can do it again. Because now you can only use the effect once per turn, or apply it once per turn. It's just you can only use it once per turn while it's face up, obviously. So because they all have that little condition that they could be used per turn face up, you can obviously see where I'm going with this. You can use it multiple times if you could just send them to the grave, bring them back. And since they have the ability to go to the graveyard anyway, by sacrificing themselves to use their abilities, simple enough. And their special summoning is not once per turn condition, which means you can multiply summon them. Unlike Dragon Rulers, where after you summon them, and if they got Trenchelled, you can't just banish 2 more dragons, bring them back. It'd be nice if they did, right? But that's another story, right? Then we got Infernoid, Dramelek. I wish they had simpler names, right? So this one requires 2 Infernoids to be banished from the hand and or graveyard. If the combined levels are of levels and ranks on your side field are 8 or more, obviously they all have that condition. They can't be special summoned by other ways, except for obviously a ball from out of the blue, which can bypass that condition. During the damage step, if this card attacks, if this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, sends it to the graveyard, it can make a second attack in a row. So it's kind of like BLS. Kill a monster, you could attack again. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can tribute 1 monster, then target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. And that's a quick effect, you know what I mean? So that's always good. So the fact that you can tribute self, of course, because it doesn't say 1 other monster, it says 1 monster. You can tribute itself and get that effect and banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, which is good. Typically you'll banish monsters, especially if you're going up against Light Swarms or something like that, or zombie decks, or Dark Rolls, or any deck that's graveyard related that uses the graveyard a lot. You can use this against them, obviously, and a quick effect. So as soon as somebody tries to do something like Soul Charge, be like, alright, I tribute, banish 1 of your monsters that I don't want you to bring back from your graveyard, and now you're stuck bringing whatever else is left over. So this is definitely a graveyard hate deck right here. We got Infernoid Vial. You banish 2 Infernos from your hand or deck to summon. Now, at the end of the battle phase, if this card attacked an opponent's monster, you can banish 1 card on the field. So that's pretty good. Banishing is much better than destroying nowadays. So that's useful. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can tribute 1 monster, then target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. So, of course, it can tribute itself to use its effect. So that's always good. And then, of course, when you bring it back, you can reuse, its tribute effect. That's the thing. You could tribute, banish 2, bring back, tribute, banish another. You get the idea. As long as you could keep bringing them back, you can keep using them. So that's pretty cool that they got that ability to go to the graveyard to do something. So it kind of makes them like Trishula, right? In a way. Infernoid Astaroth. You can banish 1 Infernoid monster from your hand or graveyard to summon it. Alright, once per turn, you can target 1 spell or trap card on the field, destroy it. Obviously, I like this one because I could pop back row, but it can add attack the turn you activate this effect. Alright, fair enough. So then I will tribute and banish something from my opponent's graveyard. Typically, what I do is I summon it, I use this effect, pop 1 of my opponent's spells or traps, then I tribute it to banish the spell or trap that I sent to the graveyard by his first effect, then banish another Infernoid, bring him back, target another spell and trap, remember, because I could do it once per turn, now only apply it once per turn, pop another spell trap, then tribute, banish the spell trap that I just sent to the graveyard, and then keep doing that as many times as I can banish. As many times as I can banish 1 Infernoid, I can pop that many back row and banish, so that way my opponent couldn't try to recoup whatever they might have in the graveyard if they have the ability to recoup what's in the grave. So that's the way I could just pop back row. Then we have Infernoid Lucifugus. Probably would have been simpler if they call it Infernoid Lucifer, but okay. You banish one to summon it. One Infernoid to summon it. Once per turn, you can target one monster on the field destroyed. So this is the monster destroyer. That's decent. And of course, you could tribute to banish the monster you sent to the graveyard. It can't attack when you use its destroy monster effect, right? Because it's strong, especially once you start doing the whole tribute, banish the monster, then banish, bring it back, use this effect, pop another monster, then tribute, banish the monster you just sent to the graveyard, and go back and forth, and you can just wipe out all your opponent's monsters if you can afford to, right? That's the whole idea. Is if you could afford to, keep popping and banishing the monsters, all gravy, right? So that right there is a nice little Delic combination. And then we have Bezel Bowl, Inferno Bezel Bowl, banish one to summon. Once per turn, you can target one face up card your opponent controls, return to the hand. Decent. It's more devastating against fusions, synchros, XYZs, ritual monsters, that kind of stuff, as opposed to like spells and traps, because you bounce the spell trap back to the hand, they're just gonna reuse it, right? Like, you don't want to bounce a Tenki back to your opponent's hand, because they'll just play and get a freaking monster out of it, right? And you don't want that. But it's still a good effect. Again, you can use it against, against a monster. That effect is not a quick effect though, so that sucks. But the whole once per turn during either player's turn, you contribute one monster and then target one card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. That is a quick effect, so that's still useful. Now, it's interesting that he doesn't have attack strength. He has defense instead of attack. It would have been better if he had attack, because you want to deal some damage. But his effect is nice nonetheless. Because it's still good, because at least it helps you get rid of stuff. Again, you tribute. The thing is, the difference between him and the other ones, like Lucifugus, is the fact that since he's bouncing to the hand, nothing goes to the graveyard by his effect, so you won't be able to. So just technically, there's nothing for you to tribute and banish from the graveyard and then bring them back and bounce something. You know what I mean? So the whole bouncing, it's a good ability, especially against certain monsters that can't be destroyed. But at the same time, it doesn't have the ability to be spammed. You can't really spam this effect. That's the thing. You really can't spam it that well. But let me double check. Yeah, and they also make sure that it's your opponent's cards you're bouncing. Because, man, it'd be nice to bounce back, your own stuff, like Phoenix Chain or something, right? Exodios. So you can recycle. Mainly, it's just to recycle your Necroface. It's not really to recycle your Infernoids, because obviously they're going out of play. They're being banished in order to be used, so you won't really be using Exodios to do that. But in the scenario in which you do have an Infernoid in the graveyard, because you use their effect to tribute and banish something from their graveyard, you can use Exodios to bounce it back into the deck, right? Any of your Infernoids. Now you have a level 10 on the field. But typically, when you do this, you want to do it when you have Nehemoth, because he's a 10, and then you bounce an Infernoid from your graveyard back into the deck to summon Exodios. Now you have 2 level 10s you can overlay and create Gustav Max, which can burn your opponent for 2,000 damage by detaching material, and it can also attack in the same turn, which is useful. So that's like 5,000 altogether in one turn, right? And then there's another option, which is number 81, Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Superior Dora, which is a 3200 and has the ability that you can detach material, target one face-up monster on the field. It is unaffected by other card effects, so that's awesome. So you could target himself, and he'll be immune to stuff like Mirror Force, Bottomless Trenchel, that type of stuff. Because it's a once per turn during either player's effect, so it's a quick effect. It's a spell G2, so you could chain it to like Trenchel, Bottomless, Mirror Force, stuff like that, Deep Prison, so on and so on. Dark Hole, Black Rose, Exoton, and the list goes on and on. Just like Felgran, right? So that's pretty nice. It's You have a pretty strong monster you can make there. Then we got another thing about YUGIOH is to help you in the advent of, let's say you use blaster effect by discarding it with fire monster to pop a card. You could use YUGIOH to send blaster and that monster back into the deck. But the main thing is you're trying to get blaster back in the deck. And then if you play reasoning, and then if your opponent's like, ooh, 7, it doesn't even matter, because the whole point was to put it back in the deck to guarantee that there will be a monster. Because let's say you have Necroface in your hand, so now you know for a fact there are no monsters you could summon in your deck, because blaster is in the graveyard now, and YUGIOH isn't. Necroface is in your hand. So to help you make sure reasoning does its effect, right, does resolve with you getting something on the field, you use YUGIOH to put blaster, as an example, back into the deck, and now you have one monster you can summon, by this effect. Whether your opponent chooses right or wrong, it doesn't matter, the effect will resolve properly. So you'll play, let's say they say 7, because they know you put the blaster back in the deck. You keep milling all your monsters, spells, and traps until you get to blaster. Blaster will go to graveyard. Not a big deal, it doesn't matter, because you can always summon him by his own effect in the following turn. But the main thing is now you got a shitload of Infernoids in the graveyard, just ready to be summoned by banishing and all this good stuff. And you have the Necroface already in your hand, ready to recycle all you remove from play Infernoids, so you could just keep going, right? So you don't lose, deck advantage, as it were, that we can keep your deck nice and full with options and resources. We got the Bolt from Out of the Blue, which is awesome because this will help you bypass the whole summoning condition, because you don't have to, for example, so that way you don't have to banish 3 Infernoids to summon Nehemoth. So you can summon them for free, just play the spell card, drop them, boom. But for the whole turn, your opponent takes no damage. It says no further, so if you deal them battle damage first, then play the card, then you're fine. But the whole idea is that you can't deal them damage afterwards, after you play the spell card. So you can play the spell card, summon him. Now you have a nice little 3000 beater you could attack your opponent with. Won't deal no damage, but you can still kill monsters. Then he still has his effect. If your opponent plays a spell or trap or something, you can counter it. And the monster will stay on the field until the end of your opponent's following turn. So during their end phase, the monster will go back into your deck. You know what I mean? So it's a good way of getting something on the field, especially if you want it on your opponent's turn. Like, for example, the main thing you want to summon will be Nehemoth. Also, another condition is your opponent has to have a monster for you to play it. So it's not a first turn move. Sucks, I wish it was. It's not a first turn move, but it's still a decent move nonetheless. As a second turn move, when your opponent does have a monster and some back row, right? Play this. If he doesn't respond to the spell, drop the monster. Now the monster can run over his monster, and if he does play some type of spell or trap or something, you can respond with Nehemoth's effect if you want. But it's also useful with other monsters, like Astaroth is a good one because he can pop back row, so you can use the spell to summon him, then use his effect to pop back row, tribute him, banish a back row, right? Then start banishing Infernoids to bring him back. Use his effect. You can just clear your whole opponent's back row. Just get rid of all his spells and traps. So, so it's a great card, and for the deck, it has nice synergy. And it's a good way to get one of these monsters out for free, just so you can use their effects and do some stuff. Like you can bring out Lucifugus, or Lucia. Just call it Lucy for short, right? You can summon Lucy, use Lucy's effect, pop a monster. So, that's all gravy right there. You didn't even have to banish a monster from your hand or graveyard in order to summon it. You just summon it for free. And of course, it's useful if you want to summon Lucy, for example, with the spell card effect, then banish an Infernoid from your hand to summon another Lucy. Right now, you can overlay and make a rank 3 if you want. Dante is a good option, of course, because you detach and you can mill 3 cards off the top of your deck, so that's more Infernoids in your graveyard, hopefully, right? So now we got spell Shattering Arrows, mainly for Pendulum, but it's useful in many other ways. You know, it's a good burn card because it deals 500 damage for every face of spell card your opponent controls that you destroyed with this card. That includes if you chain. So if your opponent plays MST and you chain this, you pop their MST, they take 500. But of course, it doesn't negate MST's effect. MST will still pop whatever it was trying to pop. But it's a good card nonetheless. And it does multiple spells, so if your opponent has a couple continuous spells or field spells or Crystal Beast or something, like your opponent, let's say your opponent's playing Crystal Beast deck or something, you could play this, pop the Crystal Beast and deal them damage. MST, obviously you'll need it for stuff like Vanishing's Emptiness, Impair on Wall, so forth and so forth, anything that would be a problem for your deck, Necro Valley, so forth and so forth. So that's useful, obviously. Need a Bug's Nest to help get these monsters to the graveyard as soon as possible, so you can start banishing and summoning and get all the stuff. Because the main thing is, this is pretty much a graveyard deck. That's my personal look on it. It's like you want all your monsters in the graveyard so you can use them. You know, banish, because you're banishing a monster to summon a monster, or you're banishing 2 to summon 1, or banishing 3 to summon 1. You get the idea. So it's like you need a lot of monsters. So this sends 5 cards from the top of your deck to graveyard. If you have 2 of them, obviously that's 10. If you have 3, that's 15, right? This is a 40 card deck, and 23 cards of the deck are monsters, so you want to mill as much as possible. Reasoning, just obviously just to get the Infernoids to the graveyard so you can use them. Allure of Darkness, even though there is Necroface and Exodios in the deck, when you use this, you're hoping not to have them in your hand at the time, before you play it or even after you play it. Because the main idea is that you're going to set your spells and traps, and then you're going to play this card. You're going to draw, hopefully draw monsters, which are the Infernoids, which is what you want to draw, and then you send them to the grave. That's the whole idea. You're not trying to keep the cards you drew. You're trying to get them to the grave. Again, it's graveyard deck. It's all about getting shit to the grave and then using the shit from the grave. So that's what Allure is really there for. It's just, yeah, play it, draw 2, and then discard. Hopefully they're Infernoids. Since they're fire monsters, they will go to grave. You won't be banishing any of them. They go to graveyard, then you can start using them from the grave. So that's what they're really there. That's what they're really there for, to help you speed up the graveyard process. Foolish, again, speed up the graveyard process. Get them to the graveyard as fast as possible. I wish I could have 3 Burrow from a Different Dimension, because obviously it's a great card. You know, to be able to get your Infernoids back into the grave so you can reuse them. I wish there was more effects similar to this. There is Burrow from Miracle Dig. It's nice, but you gotta guarantee 5 and blah blah. It's not a bad card. I'm not saying don't play it. If you could play it and you want to play it, go ahead, play it. It just, I would rather have Burrow from a Different Dimension, mainly because it does up to 3, not specifically 3. You know, there's no specific condition. I could do up to 3, so I could just bring back 1 monster. So it's just great in general, and it's a quick play. So that's, if that matters, right? If that matters, it does. Because you can set it as bluff. Your opponent tries to MSC, you can chain it, send, you know, return 3 monsters from your graveyard back to the field. I mean, not field back into the graveyard and then resummon them. That's the idea, is that you're trying to recoup. You're trying to get back your monsters so you can use them again. Because if you can't use them, you can't win, right? Blaster, because if you use this effect, you could pop a card, which is great in general, the ability to pop any card. So it's not specific, it's not like just monsters or just spells and traps or anything like that. Because if it was, then, you know, it could be a dead draw under certain conditions. If you're going up against Lightsworns and this only pop back roll, then obviously this would be useless. You're like, you know, other than the fact that you could summon it and run over monsters, its popping effect would be useless. The fact that it could generically pop any card is like, it's not a dead draw. Then it's a 2800 beater, obviously. He'll banish fire monsters, which are the Infernoids. They're fire monsters, you know, so that way you can put them back in the deck with Necroface. And then you got Necroface, of course, put it back in the deck. He also has the effect that if Necroface has the effect that if it's banished by a card effect, it's just banished, right? Both players banish the top cards of the deck, so that might help you against certain decks, like maybe Light Sworns or something, and help you deck them out or something. So things can happen, anything can happen, right? These are 4-stars, so you can combine them with Astaroth, of course, and go into some rank 4s. And we got number 101, we got Corn, we got Exciton, we got Sky Blaster. So those are your good generic rank 4s you can use. We got Zenmain, Dante, Leviar, of course. Remember, we were banishing stuff, might as well bring some stuff back. But the main thing you'll bring back if it gets banished for some reason is Necroface. That's your typical target. You'll try to bring back with this. But also, since you're banishing your own opponent's monsters with your secondary effect of Tribute Banish, you could steal their own monsters. You know what I mean? You can take something that they were using. Let's say for some reason they had a Fossil Diana or something. You know what I mean? And you banished it with one of your Infernoid effects. Now you go into a Leviar, the Sea Dragon, detach, bring Fossil Diana to your side. Now, boom. Granted, both players can't special. That means you too can't special. But so, if you got the advantage, because you shut down your opponent from specials, you take the advantage and win. We got Alucard. Gotta pop them back rows, man. Gotta pop them sets. Then for your rank 5s, oh man, I should have double checked. I forgot to change this deck a little bit. It took out the level 5. So the rank 5s are actually useless. So for now, I'm gonna take out the 2 rank 5s, which was Durando and Zenmaio, because I don't have the 5 in there no more. So obviously you could put more rank 4s if you want. More rank 8s like Felgran. I got Dragosack and Big Eye for rank 7 play. For rank 8 play, I got Prime Photon Dragon. You could put Heliopolis from the Heretic Helio Sun Hero Polis. Felgran for rank 8s. You can add that in there. And then of course you got the Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon. And you got Gustav Max for your rank 10 plays. And that's the end of the deck profile.